Titus Maccius Plautus is one of the most influential playwrights of ancient Rome, credited with establishing the tradition of Roman comedy during the Republican era. His works have left an indelible mark on the development of Western drama and are considered the earliest substantial body of Latin literature to survive in full. Plautus's comedies, characterized by their wit, engaging plots, and vibrant characters, offer invaluable insight into Roman society, its cultural exchanges, and the evolution of theater as a form of entertainment and social commentary. Plautus lived from approximately 254 to 184 BCE, during a period when Rome was expanding its influence across the Mediterranean. This was a time when Roman culture was being shaped by contact with other civilizations, especially the Greeks. Roman drama, including comedy, was heavily influenced by the theatrical traditions of ancient Greece, particularly the works of playwrights like Aristophanes, Menander, and other Greek New Comedy authors. Greek New Comedy focused on domestic and social issues, often centering on family conflicts, love affairs, and misunderstandings between slaves and masters. Plautus adapted many of his plots from these Greek originals, translating them into Latin and incorporating Roman elements to appeal to local audiences. However, despite his reliance on Greek sources, Plautus imbued his works with a distinctly Roman flavor, reflecting the realities of Roman society and the humor appreciated by its citizens. Now, the play we are going to discuss in this video is Plautus's Aulularia, commonly known as the Pot of Gold. It is a classic Roman comedy revolving around themes of greed, deception, love, and familial conflict. The play features the hallmark characteristics of Plautine comedy: stock characters, clever servants, and misunderstandings that lead to humorous situations. At its core, The Pot of Gold is a tale of a miser named Euclio, who discovers an ancestral hidden treasure and becomes consumed by paranoia over its potential theft. Let's just take a look at the characters first. Euclio, the central character of the play, an old miser who has found a pot of gold and becomes obsessively protective of it. Lar Familiaris. Lar Familiaris is the household god of Euclio's family. He has been looking after the ancestral treasure for years. Staphyla, the housekeeper of Euclio's family, whom Euclio treats severely. Megadorus, an elderly neighbor who will offer to marry Euclio's daughter. Eunomia, Megadorus's one and only sister. Lyconides, he is a young lad who falls in love with Euclio's daughter and eventually got her pregnant. These are the major characters, although there are some other characters like Megadorus's steward Strobilus, some cooks and dancers, and Lyconides' slave. And another thing to be noted here is that Euclio's daughter has no part on the stage. That means she never comes in front of the audience will hear about her from other characters. The plot begins with Lar Familiaris, who introduces himself along with the others. He describes how he was engaged as the guardian spirit of the house. After that, we immediately meet the central figure Euclio, who is in a severe mood with his household maid Staphyla. He nearly kicks her out of the house, giving her random excuses. But the audience knows the reason behind Euclio's doing. He is suspicious about his pot of gold being discovered to his maid. After checking his pot of gold, he lets Staphyla in, and this goes on every day, on a routine basis. On the other side, we meet the household of Megadorus, where his sister is so worried about her brother's marriage. Although Megadorus shows that he has no interest in marriage, he eventually says he kind of liked the neighbor Euclio's daughter. So they agree in that matter. Megadorus meets Euclio and raised his proposal. He does not want anything in dowry. He just wants Euclio's daughter. On the other hand, Euclio thought Megadorus has got his eyes on his pot of gold, and now he is pretending to be a gentleman to fulfill his intentions. Here is an interesting thing about the society reflected in the play. Even then, daughters were treated as possessions. They were like some kind of burden. In the play, Euclio fixed his daughter's marriage without her consent, just because he does not have to give dowry. And this might be the reason of Phaedria being silent in the play. So everything is decided now. The marriage was to take place on that very day. Megadorus arranged some cooks and dancers for the banquet. Euclio does not intend to spend a single penny, so Megadorus sent some of his cooks and dancers to Euclio's house. But the situation became ironic when Euclio kicked them out of his house, suspecting them as they might take his pot of gold. He then took out his pot of gold to put it somewhere else and keep it safe. He kept it inside a shrine, thinking no one would know about it. But Lyconides' slave overheard Euclio, and he searched for the hidden pot of gold. But unfortunately, when he was searching, Euclio caught him red-handed and bit him up. Euclio then decided to keep it somewhere else. But again, it was the slave who overheard Euclio's talking to himself. And this time, he didn't miss the chance to find out the pot of gold. On the other hand, Lyconides told his mother about his relationship with Euclio's daughter Phaedria, that she is pregnant with his child now. He manages his mother to convince Uncle Megadorus not to marry her. When Euclio found out that he has been looted both financially and socially, he could not understand who did it. He blamed Megadorus for his situation. However, the audience knows the slave of Lyconides took the pot of gold. The slave told Lyconides about his doing. After hearing all these, Megadorus planned a way to help Lyconides in his marriage. He summoned Lyconides and told him to make a deal with his slave. The deal is interesting. The slave will get freedom if he returns the pot of gold to Lyconides, and the slave agrees to the deal. Now, this was the time for Lyconides to become a hero in front of his would-be father-in-law. He met Euclio and told him the whole story, although he made up a false story about the theft of the pot of gold. As a comedy, now we expect a happy ending, and so will happen. Euclio becomes a noble man and gives the whole pot of gold to Lyconides to spend on his daughter. And he realizes that the pot of gold was a kind of burden to him. The play ends with this happy ending. Throughout the play, we see the dominant nature of male characters in the society. Phaedria becomes an asset for her father. She is completely mute throughout the play. Another important aspect is that slave culture was dominant in the society. The legacy of Plautus is monumental. His works influenced not only his contemporaries, but also later generations of playwrights, particularly in the Renaissance. Roman playwrights like Terence drew from Plautus, and his plays became the foundation for much of European comic theater in the following centuries. Shakespeare, for instance, adapted themes and situations from Plautine comedies in his own works, most notably the Comedy of Errors, which mirrors the mistaken identity plot of Plautus's Menaichmi. Plautus's works are among the few Roman comedies that have survived in complete form. Of the estimated 130 plays he wrote, 20 have been preserved, with fragments of others. Some of his most notable plays include Menaichmi, a farcical comedy of mistaken identities involving twin brothers separated at birth. Aulularia, the play we just discussed. Miles Gloriosus, the story of a boastful soldier who is tricked by a clever slave. Pseudolus, one of Plautus's most famous plays, it follows the scheming slave Pseudolus as he attempts to free a courtesan for his master. Aulularia, or The Haunted House, a comedic tale involving a clever slave who tricks his master into believing their house is haunted to cover up a wild party.